Welcome to Hollywood Actions. In this video, we're going to dive deep into the stars who brought the Delta Quadrant to life. Yes, we're talking about the incredible cast of Star Trek, Voyager 1995, a show that boldly took us farther into space than ever before. From their unforgettable roles aboard the USS Voyager to where they are today in 2025, we'll explore their early lives. Now let's dive in. 1. Kate Mulgrew. Kate Mulgrew made television history as the first female captain to lead a Star Trek series. Her role as Janeway was bold, brilliant, and unforgettable. Now, in recent years, Mulgrew reprised her Janeway role in Star Trek Prodigy, voicing a holographic version of the character. She's also active in politics and advocacy, and released her second memoir. At 69, she remains a powerful voice in Hollywood and beyond, where she played Red, a role that earned her widespread acclaim and award nomination. 2. Robert Beltran. As Voyager's first officer, Chakotay was a strong, stoic leader and one of the most spiritual characters in Star Trek history. Now, 2025, Beltran is now an active figure in Native American representation in the arts and teaches acting while continuing to make appearances at Star Trek conventions worldwide. He went on to act in theater, independent films, and TV shows. 3. Tim Russ. The ever-logical Vulcan security officer, Tuvok, was a perfect combination of intellect and subtle humor. Now, Russ is a respected filmmaker and musician. He performs live music and lectures on filmmaking and acting. He's 68 and still active in the fan community. He became a prolific director and continued acting in sci-fi shows, indie films. 4. Roxann Dawson. Half Klingon, half human, B'Elanna was the fierce and brilliant chief engineer aboard Voyager. Now, Dawson is one of the most in-demand directors in TV and film. She's also a published author and producer, with several projects currently in development. She transitioned into directing, with credits in The Americans. 5. Robert Duncan McNeil. The rebellious flyboy with a heart, Tom Paris was Voyager's chief pilot and one of the series' most beloved characters. Now, McNeil is a top television director and producer. At 60, he's co-hosting the Delta Flyers podcast with Garrett Wang. He pivoted into directing and producing, with major roles in Chuck. 6. Garrett Wang. Forever an ensign, but always dependable, Harry Kim was the fresh face of Starfleet aboard Voyager. Now, Garrett is heavily involved in Star Trek fan projects and is a convention favorite. He's also expressed interest in directing and indie film production. He stepped back from mainstream acting and focused on hosting convention circuits. 7. Ethan Phillips. Neelix was the ship's cook, morale officer, and all-around cheerleader for the Voyager crew. Now, Phillips, now in his 70s, still acts occasionally and is a fan favorite at conventions for his hilarious behind-the-scenes stories. He continued acting in series like Bones and Better Call Saul, and lent his voice to animated series. 8. Jennifer Lien. The gentle and empathic Kes was a member of the Ocampa species with extraordinary mental abilities. Now, Lien has mostly remained out of the spotlight. Her fans continue to hope for her well-being and privacy. She stepped away from acting in the early 2000s due to personal struggles. 9. Jeri Ryan. 7 of 9 joined in Season 4 and quickly became one of Voyager's most iconic characters, the former Borg drone struggling to regain her humanity. Now, Jeri Ryan remains a sci-fi icon. She's 57 and continues acting and making convention appearances. She also advocates for women's rights and representation in sci-fi. She starred in Boston Public, Leverage, and eventually returned in Star Trek Picard Season 1-3. 10. Robert Picardo. The emergency medical hologram became one of Voyager's most complex and beloved characters. Robert is 71 and still acting and engaging in scientific outreach with organizations like the Planetary Society. He voiced characters, Guest starred in The Orville, and starred in indie films. 11. Manu and Tereme. Then, introduced later in the series, Icheb was a young ex-Borg struggling to find his place aboard Voyager. Now, he's still active on the fan circuit and produces content independently. Manu acted in indie films and became involved in fan productions. 12. Scarlett Pomers. Then, the child of the Voyager crew, Naomi was the first human born in the Delta Quadrant. Now, she left Hollywood and became a successful photographer and singer. Pomers appeared in Reba and battled an eating disorder, eventually becoming an advocate for mental health. 13. Martha Hackett. Then, as the cunning Cardassian spy, Seska was a major early antagonist in the series. Now, Hackett occasionally appears at conventions and does voice work for sci-fi games. She took smaller roles and focused on family life. 14. Richard Hurd. Then, Admiral Paris, father of Tom Paris, appeared in several key episodes. Now, sadly, Richard Hurd passed in 2020 at age 87. Hurd worked in Seinfeld, and other series. 15. Susanna Thompson. Then, Thompson's chilling portrayal of the Borg Queen added menace to Voyager's final arcs. Now, still acting, Thompson is involved in directing and producing stage plays. She appeared in Arrow and Kings.